What's up? Welcome in. Coming up on today's show, some really positive Niners injury news heading into Saturday's matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. Should San Francisco be concerned about the task of beating Seattle 3 times in a single season? We'll explore that, as well as a new Jimmy Garoppolo injury update and some all-pro honors for some players on this Niners roster. But first, what a matchup we have in the NFC wildcard round at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara between these two heated and hated division rivals. And it's also a big rivalry inside the walls here at Chat Sports. We're having a sub-competition all throughout the week. And, of course, San Francisco beating Seattle Seahawks today. 74,000 plus subscribers to 33 plus thousand, and we want to continue to add on top of that number. So if you love the faithful, you love this football team, and you want to stay in the know with news, rumors, analysis, and updates every single day year-round, lock us in. Nobody's moving like we're moving here on the Niners Report. Subscribe today. To the practice report and injury report for San Francisco, some good news on this front, and I'll expand my thoughts here coming up in just a second. But these are the limited participants during Tuesday's practice. Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles, the linebacker with the neck injury. Aaron Banks, the offensive guard, flanked to Trent Williams, ankle and knee. Dre Greenlaw with the back injury. Arik Armstead with the foot and ankle. Javon Kinlaw with the knee injury. And Christian McCaffrey with the knee injury as well. Really the two players that we want to talk about whose statuses were in question heading into this week, did not play last week. Aaron Banks and Dre Greenlaw. We'll talk about them coming up around the corner, but really good news here with Kevin Givens, who's one of the quicker defensive tackles on this Niners defensive line that can go 2-3 deep. And come playoff time, you want to be able to stop the run, of course, but get after the opposing quarterback. And Kevin Givens has done a really good job of doing that in a very underrated way. Full participant coming off that MCL injury in his knee. And if the Niners get him back at that defensive tackle spot, because of his quickness on the interior, it bulks up this Niners defensive line, which is already the best in the NFL. As for that linebacker spot with Dre Greenlaw, I've seen a couple of writers who have votes for All-Pro members in the NFL this year have Dre Greenlaw as a second-team All-Pro. Really good news for the former fifth-round pick out of Arkansas. It's also good news that he's back on the practice field. Did not play last week in the season finale against Arizona because of that neck injury that he suffered the week prior. And if Dre Greenlaw comes back, he is another addition to what is the best linebacking core in the NFL. And San Francisco continues to boost the league's #1 overall defense. And for Dre Greenlaw, he's been a massive element and part of that, leading the team in tackles with 127, 6 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. He continues to be a big-time player on this Niners defense. And going up against Seattle, their pass attack and their running attack, it's going to be great for them to have him back on the field, because he was certainly missed in moments against Arizona, even though they pretty much didn't do anything after that 77-yard trick play on the second play from scrimmage. The point here being, Dre Greenlaw is a baller, Dre Greenlaw is a dog, and when you have ballers and dogs, it helps out your squad. As for Aaron Banks, in 2022, after having played 5 snaps last year as a rookie, after being a second-round pick out of Notre Dame, he's been one of the more pleasant surprises among offensive linemen in the NFL. Big shoes to fill, having to fill in for Laken Tomlinson. How about this, folks? Laken Tomlinson was not good for the New York Jets, and he's making a lot of money this year, $14 million, and Aaron Banks was excellent to the right of Trent Williams on that offensive line. 969 offensive snaps prior to the injury that caused him to miss last week's game. 526 pass blocking snaps, only 5 penalties, only 1 sack allowed, only 2 hits allowed on the 3 quarterbacks who have played this year, Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Brock Purdy, and 25 total pressures. And why it's important to have Banks, Greenlaw healthy, on top of the reasons that I already mentioned, it is going to be rainy and sloppy. At least that's what it looks like in the forecast as of now, as California and the West Coast just getting hammered with showers all throughout the week. So having an offensive line that can run block and a linebacking unit that can play stout against the run is big for this Niners defense, because at all costs, you have to avoid a choke job and a massive upset against Seattle. So with that, as we're about to give you another preview element on our show at the Seahawks game, I want to ask you this. Are you concerned about beating Seattle 3 times? Sound off. I really want to gauge where the fan base is at. I always go back to see what you all have to say in the comment section. Now, when it comes down to beating the same team 3 times in a single season, obviously it didn't work last year for San Francisco. They swept the Los Angeles Rams in the regular season. Then in the NFC Championship game, they squandered that fourth quarter lead and lost to the Rams in that third matchup. But history shows it is not impossible by any means to beat the same team 3 times in a single season. Our chat stats segment of the day. Since the 1970 merger, there have been 23 instances of a team going 2-0 in the regular season and then meeting a third time in the playoffs against that same opposition. The team that won the first 2 matchups has a record of 14-9 in the third meeting, and the team that won the first 2 and hosted a playoff game, an even better record, 13-5 in that third game. And for San Francisco, when you think about it, when you match these 2 teams up, there is no excuse for the 49ers to squander this game and lose it. The 49ers are the far better team, far better roster, and they're playing better right now as compared to Seattle. And remember, a lot of people want to point to Pete Carroll maybe drawing up a defensive scheme to confuse rookie quarterback Brock Purdy. It was a surprise to this coaching staff that Brock Purdy was even able to play. He had a tear in his oblique, and he was still slinging the rock, dropping dimes, and playing very well. Pretty hurt in Week 15. Now he's at full strength for the wild card round. And then going back to that point about the Niners just being the better team, as evidenced by the Pro Football Focus grades and the team grades from PFF, and keep in mind that they go back and watch every single snap of every single game. So we're going to compare Seattle and the Niners here. Pass blocking grade for Seattle, 63.6. That's important going up against this really good Niners defensive front. Run blocking grade, 57.6. Not that great. Run defense, 62.7. Pass rush, 66.5. Keep those numbers in mind as we pivot to the Niners Pro Football Focus grades. Better pass blocking grade, significantly, 75.5. Run blocking grade, 68-point run. Run defense, 79.4, and pass rush grade of 78.5. That's really what this game could come down to, is those latter 2 grades here. Run defense against the Seahawks run offense, vice versa on both sides of the ball for both of these teams. As San Francisco, in the previous 2 matchups, they have run an average nearly 150 rushing yards per game in the previous 2 matchups, and they've barely squandered any yards on the ground for this Niners rushing defense against the Seahawks rushing offense. A big key, since it'll be rainy, you have to stop Seattle's running attack, and Kenneth Walker has really started to play well over the last couple of weeks. You take a look at how he ended the regular season. Week 16 against the Kansas City Chiefs, 26 totes, a $107, average yards per carry of 4.1. Pretty good against the Jets, even better in fact, 23 carries, 133 yards, average yards per carry of nearly 6. And then against the Rams, he once again surpassed the century mark with 29 carries, 114 yards, 3.9 average yards per carry. No touchdowns there as Seattle's red zone offense has struggled, and the Niners' red zone defense in terms of giving up touchdowns has been good this year. Stack the box, force Geno Smith to beat you, stop that run, and in sloppy conditions, do not turn the football over if you're San Francisco. Otherwise, you could go down and out early. So who you got in this game? Niners, Seahawks. It's been the big question all throughout the week. I'm going Niners. Typing that SF right now. I do think they win this game. Weather concerns me a little bit, but they're the far better team. Do not sleepwalk in this game. That's my message to this roster. When you look at the betting odds, this is really important. This is really telling. The odds makers, Las Vegas, they put together these lines. They have the best data that anybody has. They love the Niners in this spot. To be double-digit favorites, meeting a team for the third time in the NFL playoffs is pretty telling. Over-under set at 42.5. So that's the odds for this game. And then the odds to win the NFC. Some sports books do have the Niners as the odds-on favorite to win the NFC title. Our sportsbook partner, BetUS, plus 175 for both the Eagles and the Niners. Then a big step off to the Cowboys at 6-1 odds. I think they're in upset territory against Tom Brady with those Bucks 10-1 odds, Vikings at 14-1 odds. If you want to take the Niners to beat Seattle, cover that 10-point line. Maybe you like the under because of the weather coming into play. If you like the Niners to win the NFC, get your bets in with our sportsbook partner and sign up today. And for first-time users, you get a 125% deposit bonus at chatsports.com/49bet, promo code Niners125. To the latest on Jimmy Garoppolo. The team has been saying for a little while that there was a chance that he'd be able to come back late in the playoffs. I don't see how that's going to come to fruition because of the latest update on Jimmy G. Still not putting weight on his injured foot that he injured back several weeks ago. Now, he's currently moving around on a knee scooter, one of those things where you prop your leg up, you only put pressure on that one leg. He was seen wearing a plastic boot this week, and the 49ers, as I said, have said that he could be available later in the playoffs, but if Jimmy G is still non-weight bearing, and here we are in the wild card round, divisional round obviously next week, NFC Championship game after that, it seems pretty unlikely that Jimmy Garoppolo is close to returning if he's still non-weight bearing and he's on that scooter with propping his leg up. I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I'm not a doctor. As for the latest rumors on Jimmy G, we talked about this on yesterday's show, but in case you missed it, Raiders could be interested in reuniting Josh McDaniels with Jimmy G after their time with the New England Patriots together. Here's Albert Breer. I can tell you unequivocally this is a fact. Raiders looking into signing Tom Brady. Raiders looking into going and acquiring Tom Brady. Yes, this is something that the Raiders are doing their research on. The same goes for Jimmy Garoppolo. Looking at the idea of studying Jimmy G, that's what Derek Carr was up against the last couple of months when they looked at him and they went, I don't know if this is going to work past this year. I think Carr was sort of thrown into a de facto competition with Garoppolo and Brady, and it's from the Raiders' perspective, can we do better? I believe the Raiders can do better with Jimmy Garoppolo over Derek Carr. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is the better quarterback than Derek Carr, and I'd rather have Jimmy G as my starter than Derek Carr. Why is he a fit on the Las Vegas Raiders, and why do I think that I'd rather have Jimmy G as my franchise quarterback than DC? Well, he has familiarity with Josh McDaniels going back to their days with the New England Patriots. The Raiders have a win-now roster that I actually think it's a pretty good roster, and if they didn't squander 5 10-point leads, which was historic this year, Raiders would be a playoff team, and I think they'd be a dangerous playoff team. But we know that Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have a bazooka for an arm. He doesn't have crazy athleticism. He needs a really good supporting cast around him. Well, he has Darren Waller at tight end, one of the best in the NFL, very good slot receiver in Hunter Renfrow, the best pure wide receiver in Devontae Adams. They need to get that offensive line shored up, especially if they want to bring in Jimmy G because of that lack of mobility. Will they re-sign Josh Jacobs, the NFL's leader in rushing yards in 2022? Probably they should, and if they do, that's yet another weapon for Jimmy G. So a balanced offensive attack with the Las Vegas Raiders brings the best out of Garoppolo because that's what elevated his play with the San Francisco 49ers. Josh McDaniels is a good play caller, just like Kyle Shanahan is a good play caller, and the Raiders are desperate for a leader at the quarterback spot, a proven winner at that quarterback position. Jimmy G has won more than 70% of his starts throughout his NFL career. Derek Carr can't say the same. He's clutch in big moments. Derek Carr is not. And for Jimmy G, he's played in the Super Bowl. He's played in 2 NFC Championship games. That is the formula that the Raiders are looking for, and if they can't get Tom Brady, then Jimmy Garoppolo, a very good backup option to signing Tom Brady in NFL free agency. So what do you think? Should the Niners bring Jimmy G back to be a backup on this team? Or should they move forward with Brock Purdy and Trey Lance, knowing that both of them are on their rookie contracts? I'm going to type my W for walk, let Jimmy G walk, thank him for his time, great tenure in San Francisco. I'm not going to type my R for re-sign, but if you disagree with me, that's all good, and you can call me a fraud in the comment section. This is America, freedom of speech, baby. NFLPA unveiling their players all-pro first team. So what this means is all players in the NFL voted on which players they think should be first-team All-Pros, and 4 49ers on this list, according to the players in the NFL. Who? Juice! Kyle Juszczyk checking in at fullback. There's not a better fullback in the NFL and more impactful fullback than Juice. So he makes it, as well as Trent Williams, the best left tackle in the game. He's anchoring that left tackle spot, according to the players here. And then you move forward to the defensive side of the ball. Nick Bosa at edge rusher after not being named an All-Pro last year, which is criminal. Whoever didn't vote him should probably go to jail. And then also Fred Warner, off-ball linebacker for the Niners, checking in, according to the players, best off-ball linebacker and should be a first-team All-Pro. So feel free to interact with me. You have thoughts on that list? You have thoughts on Jimmy Garoppolo? You have thoughts on this game against Seattle? Hit me up. Twitter, Instagram, at Chase_Senior. Made it easier for all of you because it's the same handle on both social media platforms. A programming reminder, since we got to that Super Chat number on our Tuesday live show, we're going live. Myself, producer Trizzy Trace, hour and a half, 90 minutes prior to kickoff on Saturday. Subscribe, lock us in, and keep it locked here for more Niners coverage every day.